The Say Something podcast is brought to you by amomentwithmorris.com and blackblueprints.com. That's blackblueprints with a Z.com. I'm Jermaine Morris here with the one and only Mr. Barry Accius.
Peace and blessings, family.
We're bringing you the Say Something podcast.
Say something, say something, say something.
That's right. Well, myself and Barry get together and talk about everything going on in this life, in the world, and the traffic in these streets.
In these streets, in these streets.
Coming at you to your dope piece every 7 days. We are hitting you with episode number 39.
Come on.
I was thinking about this one.
Exactly.
I was thinking about this
You
one.
got one for
I
me.
do. Episode number 39. There's a reason why, too. Shout out to that Steven Jackson for the St. Louis Rams.
You got one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Episode 39. Steven Jackson, St. Louis Rams. Used to get it in an era where the Rams wasn't ish.
Definitely wasn't.
He was 1,000-yard back. He was continuously getting it in. And something that I thought was crazy about Steven Jackson is that there was a stretch of about 3 seasons where each year he was getting better. Like rushing for 1,000 yards, then rushing for 1,000, then rushing for 1,100. TDs was going up. Like during 07, 08, 09, he was
that back.
Grounded in. But at the same time he was getting better, the Rams went 3-13, 2-14, then 1-15.
Wow.
So why I look at that is that that's kind of a nod to you being good at a particular thing, but you're still not winning.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a phrase. I think that that's kind of like something that can be crystallized for a lot of people. You know, that they're good at a particular thing.
But that don't mean it's going to add up into
It don't mean
success for everyone.
And even for them, big picture, they may not get the W.
No.
And looking at
Hall of Fame?
No.
Not at all?
Nah, he ain't a Hall of Famer. He's solid though. He's solid. He was in Rams for a minute. He went to the Falcons. He was a Patriot for a season. But I don't think he's technically retired. I just don't think anybody picked him up.
That's crazy because you have a lot of those guys, man. If you think about it, NFL's a cold game because a lot of those players had those stretches where it's one-hit wonders, 3 or 4 years, and that's it.
Yeah, and like I said, he churned out quite a few. And looking at him, when I think about episode 39, I was looking at somebody in particular who hit the news, who has been good in a particular area of success. But he catching the L this week. Hear about old Kevin Hart?
Shorty doo-wop.
Yeah, man.
What is it? Chocolate drop?
Chocolate dropper. Caught up this week.
Usher style.
With Becky with the good hair.
Was it with a Becky?
She's something. Maybe Puerto Rican or something. She
a little hot mama.
Yeah,
Why, you gonna break it down, but why is this news?
Well, because there's a reason why. There's a reason why. In general, it's just because he's famous.
Oh, well, definitely.
But I'm saying, but why I thought that was...
or did folks really buy into he's a good guy?
Well, I think part of it came from 2 reasons. One, when there was a tape that kind of came out about a month ago alluding to this chick, he came out, trying to just squash it. Like, it's funny when people just keep trying to make up stuff and, I'm just out here living my life.
Okay, so he's playing a role.
So that's number 1. Number 2 is he goes real extra hard on big up in his relationship and really, which is not wrong, to big up your girl in your family situation, but he always put a little extra on it. He always put 20 on 10.
A little mustard on the hot dog. Huh?
Yeah, so when you the dude always putting a little extra on it, and you're supposed to be the poster child for positivity and all these all the other comics forever hating on him, and he's always coming out
because he's the golden boy.
Yeah, so when you're that guy, and then when it starts to come out, and you're
not that guy.
Yeah, and you start calling everybody crazy, and they're stupid, and they need to get lies, and you don't know where this stuff comes from, and this, that, and then it comes out, and then the only reason why you came clean was because fear of extortion.
Listen, this is Critique 101 from your good friend Barry Accius. If you got the millions, pay her.
Yeah, but she wanted a lot apparently.
Listen,
So
if you got the millions, pay her.
I would say so. He took the
How
road
much was she asking?
like $15 million. I think it was something like that.
Listen, pay her.
Well, I guess it depends because what he did is trying to get ahead of it. He was like, I'm not going to be extorted, whatever. So I'm gonna come out and put my dirt on the table. And I'm sure by the time he gave the little Instagram video for the world to see, he'd already talked over to his wife. Like, there was like that Kobe moment where Kobe was at the press conference sitting next to his wife with that $4 million ring and a tear rolling down his cheek.
So, reverse. Give your wife the $15 million or the $4 million in a Kobe ring and work that out.
Which is what I'm sure he did. Because they just got married and she's pregnant. And
wait, this is a story that broke out some months ago.
Yeah, like,
but now it actually came into this is what it really is.
So what happened is that the story that came out was questionable. There was nothing just definitive about the little video of him in the car.
Because that came out during the black man scandal.
Like a month ago. Yeah.
Came out.
Same week.
Yeah, it was hectic.
So all that stuff, he just kind of was able to it was the same week. The Bobby Valentino, Usher, Kevin Hart, all like 2 days apart. All like 2 days apart.
And R. Kelly.
All that stuff, same week. Yeah. It was all the same week. And so he was able to
Yeah, because that Usher story was huge.
Yeah, he was able to Floyd Mayweather his way out.
I think even before that, you had OJ.
All that stuff.
On parole.
Yeah, so there was so many things going on. Well, the problem now is there's a sex tape out. Yeah.
Let me ask a question.
Yeah.
Why do Negroes feel so free when they have so much on the line and making sex tapes with these toss-ups?
Well, he didn't. So the little.
Well, how did she?
So the clip that's out there now is apparently there was a phone or something set up in the corner. So now phones are HD cameras and stuff. So you could see there's the two of them in the bed. And the phone is positioned to where you couldn't necessarily make out who was in the bed, but as soon as you get out of the bed, you're in view of the camera. So she's trying to say it wasn't her because I guess maybe there was another girl that was in the room too. Like all this stuff is coming out that looked like he might have been getting his little threesome on, and it was the other girl who set it up because now he's doubled down and they're going after extortion because extortion's against the law.
Yeah.
So instead of just resting on I was wrong and I messed up, he's in cahoots with law enforcement to go after on the extortion side. He said, I'm willing to cancel or put all my projects on hold to help the police department to go after this extortion. So why I even care or why this is even tied up to this episode and what I was looking at is because with him, this is apparently the chick that he was messing with while he was still technically married to his ex-wife, his current wife. The girl he just married was a side chick while he was married to his ex-wife.
Yes.
And so everybody's like, well, this is, what once a cheater, always a cheater.
Karma.
That's the word that everybody's throwing around, especially.
So she thought she was going to be winning the grand prize, and she still possibly can. But in reality, the same thing happened to her.
That happened to the ex-wife. Yeah. So she did win the Kevin Hart sweepstakes when it comes to money because she wasn't nobody before she met him.
Yeah.
And it's a fat payday right now, even if she divorces him after a year.
As she should.
She's still going to get cleaned up. She's going to get kicked down. So what I'm looking at is when we look at patterns of behavior. So we like to say that once a cheater, always a cheater. Once a thief, always a thief. Once you were a certain way, like that's just who you are. And so what I'm kind of looking at posing to you is, do you believe in that? Like if you were a certain way, if you were, this is who you are, that's just who you are. You can't be nothing different.
I think that money only enhances the asshole you are or the greedy person you are or the nice person you are. I mean, whoever you were before money, I mean, when you get it, it enhances it, right?
Yeah.
The one thing that has always been a disposition for any man, black or whatever, has been pussy and power.
Yeah.
Once you get power, you're definitely going to get more pussy. And I don't know too many men with that power and that position. And in the fact of Kevin Hart being that all-American guy. I mean,
Yeah.
he is the poster board of comedy.
Yeah.
Black, white,
whatever. He's the guy in comedy.
Is the guy in comedy. So, seeing that, you have a lot more leeway. So, who's going to sit there and, one, go against Kevin Hart because he has a machine that takes care of things like this?
Yeah.
But two, even if I had some people that were kind of getting out of line, I'll give them a shopping spree. Here's a few $100,000. Cool out,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But here you have it where nowadays men and women must understand, especially in the limelight, you can have that one particular person that will try to bring you down just so they can get on top. Because that's the type of business that people are in, is into extorting individuals and to bringing individuals to light and saying, hey, look at me, it's my time to shine. So in a sense of where Kevin Hart is, going back right to what your question is, can people change and can people be different? I believe so, because I used to do a lot of different things. Okay. I don't do it now. So I believe that it can. But now, is it very difficult to change your ways and turn it all the way around? For sure. And if I probably got the things that I felt I should have got when I was in that other life, it would have probably been a lot harder for me to transform, because I transformed because I didn't see any more benefit in what I was doing.
Okay.
You get what I'm talking about? So yeah. I wasn't...
It wasn't a hard change.
It was still a difficult change, but had I ever reached the heights of what I believed I should have got from being in the game, hustling, and had I had the $200,000 sitting somewhere hidden,
the Maybach in the driveway, and the
right. Listen, I could have lost it all.
Yeah.
But had I had those, I've had nice cars, I had a lot of money, but at that particular time, having these in arm's reach, it'd probably be a lot difficult. So in a sense of me saying, what do I have to lose going this way, compared to, well, I had it before, why change? I think the behavior is very hard to change, and particularly when you are feeling like you're benefiting more of this way, because even if Kevin Hart does get caught, I doubt that he's ever going to stop doing what he does.
Yeah.
Because it's just too, it's easy when a man is not, women are not throwing themselves to men. It's easy. It's easy for a man to say, I don't cheat on my wife. Yeah, nobody's
looking for you. Ain't nobody checking for you.
But when you're in that limelight, and my daughter just saw him in Vegas in July. It was his birthday. They share the same birthday, right? Okay. And she just was like, the chicks was really on this dude.
That's actually where they apparently hooked up. Apparently she was a traveling stripper that he met in Vegas for the month of August.
You gotta be freaking.
So man, while he was out there doing all those pool parties and out there every night, she was in Vegas for that month with him. That's apparently where he met her.
Okay, and then again, the type of girls that typically a lot of men in this life try to use have been the girls that are really flipping the game.
Yeah,
the girls that you think that, okay, she's just going to be happy to be around me. She's going to keep this on the low because she is who she is, a stripper.
Yeah, that's a professional hustler.
These are the professional artists, hustlers, and all that. So it's a difficult thing when men gravitate to the level of power and positioning like Kevin Hart, to sit there and all of a sudden now I'm going to be here with my nice wife and my kids, and I'm not going to do anything.
Because I think it was the old phrase that says you can find out the true test of a woman if you're a man. Like I said, the true test of a woman you have is when you have nothing. But the true test of a man is when he has everything. It's real easy to be humble and be down when you ain't got nothing.
For sure.
But as soon as you got that little access, little opportunity, that's where it starts to come out.
This dude is Eddie Murphy status.
That's what I'm saying. And why I was using him to preface, so it's not just about some little short comedian getting caught up in these streets. I particularly don't care, because if it is true that his current wife was the side piece while he was married to his ex-wife, then it just would be a play on karma, and he's got enough resources, and she ain't going anywhere. So I don't see her bouncing out on him over this, because I think there is a degree of who you're with.
Yeah.
So she may be embarrassed that it got out.
Yeah.
But she know who she married.
And that's another thing. I think that none of these women are stupid nowadays.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that the only part that they play is, you've embarrassed me, as you said.
Yeah.
And now I have to be in this moment. Do they really want to be in this moment? Probably particularly not.
Yeah.
Right? But they have to play it off with the media. I think that worst case scenario, what? She leaves?
Yeah, and like I said, I don't even see that happen. But why I look at it is because you hear stuff. I just use infidelity to start with, because you'll hear, like I said, one dude cheat on you once, or he ever cheated on anybody. Like, you got to expect him to cheat again. But there's also another pattern of behavior that happens that's a little more serious. Because as we get ready, this is September. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, coming up next month.
Huh.
And so would you make the same argument that a person who hits somebody can go through the same evolution, or is it simply a revolution of a behavior? Like, instead of evolve, they just revolve. It's a revolving door. Now, that revolving door may be 6 months, it may be 6 years, it may be 16 years. But like, once if it's something that's in you, is it something that you can curve out of, or is it something that it's a matter of time?
That, my friend, is $1 million question that I would love to figure out myself, because I'm in a current situation with a very close friend of mine that is going through that.
Okay.
And some family members are involved, and as a man, I want to go over there and drag the motherfucker out of the house and do what I do, call some goons and handle our business.
Yeah.
But in reality, that person really holds on to this coward. I won't call him a man. This coward, and actually, I think activates his abuse, because she's allowed it. She's accepted it.
Okay.
She's made excuses. I got a conversation with the person that's also involved, and they told me that she said this man is a good guy. He's nice. He's good. He just needs help. So I think sometimes the person being abused has made so many excuses for the abuser that the abuser who needs the help will never get the help. And I honestly believe that the reason why a lot of the abusers stay abusing, because they find women that allow it and will fall in line with it, because the abuser is such a manipulator, right? So it's a lot more difficult when a person does not decide to get the help they need, right?
Okay.
If the person has crossed the line, I do think, and I don't want anybody that's listening to hear it and say you're crazy, Barry. I think you could get redemption if you put some kind of you may hurt a woman physically, in a sense of not punching her out or just kicking her ass.
Yeah.
But you grab her, may push her. There's redemption. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And I think if you hit your girl and it was just out of just full out rage and just emotions, I think that you can channel it out with proper therapy and work it out.
It was a circumstance.
Yes,
It's
circumstances create certain situations.
Yeah.
But when it's like you go out your way just to not only abuse physically but mentally, and that's what you do. You're stalking, right?
Yeah.
You're manipulating, and on top of the manipulation, what you're doing is you're controlling that person to the point where that person can't breathe. I think that is where I relatively find and say that person has a problem, and I don't really believe that there is coming back from that, because if a person doesn't take the time out to say, I got to get some help, and say that because I love you, I don't need you to go with me on this journey. Most of the time, the abuser is expecting the person getting abused to stay with them to figure
while they go through the process. Yeah.
Like, that's the only way I feel a person can truly, truly change. if they know they have the issue, they identify that issue, they are no longer pointing the finger that, well, you move the sugar where I usually have the sugar, and you know I didn't. You know, I feel some kind of way.
Well, we have corn. I said I want potatoes.
Yeah,
dinner.
Exactly. Yeah. When the sugar's not on the counter, it's in the refrigerator. But you're slapping her up and doing all that type of crazy things.
Okay.
I believe that you can get help, but it has to be a decision of the abuser allowing the person that's being abused to be set free and them dealing with themselves.
Okay, so do we make a distinction between gender? Because typically when you say the phrase domestic violence...
Oh, you think about men.
Well, the first narrative is woman, victim, men, villain.
It's mostly that.
Yeah, so that's the first picture. So now, does that change at all, pattern of behavior, ability to change, if it's the woman? And why I preface that too is, so domestic violence, just to clear it up, is not just physical.
No.
So it's also verbal, mental, psychological, emotional, and even financial. You know, if you're the breadwinner and you're using your means and your resources to control somebody's behavior and or demean them, put them down, berate them, all those are different forms of domestic violence. So there are women out there who, now granted, statistically, a woman will hit a man faster than a man will hit a woman. It's just that we always make the argument, well, he's so much bigger than me, I can't do that much damage. But if you hit somebody out of frustration or anger, hitting somebody out of frustration and anger is hitting somebody out of frustration and anger. So some
women got some good
right. That's what I'm saying. There's that narrative that if you talk domestic violence, you're talking a man beating a woman. But there's a whole lot of women popping a dude in the back of the head, slapping him because you're upset, shoving him in the chest because you're frustrated, slapping his phone out his hand. All that stuff is domestic violence.
Yeah.
You know, now in our culture, we go, well, I just had to check him.
Yeah.
I just had to
in your face.
I just had to let him know. I just had to, what happened, man? I came out the movies and he was chatting it up with some waitress. What'd you do? I slapped the S out of him and told her to get on. If you reverse that and say, what happened? I came out the bathroom and she was talking to this waiter. So what'd you do? I slapped the S out of her and told him to get on. He's the devil.
Yeah.
She's just checking him.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like changing, evolving, or is it a revolving pattern, do we even look for women to change their behavior? Like, does the light bulb even come on? Now, granted, if she's full blown waiting to exhale, blowing the car up with all his stuff in it, you may say she has a problem. But do we even acknowledge, the slap across the head, the two fingers shoved to the temple, do we even look at that when it comes to a pattern of behavior for women?
I think we do. I just necessarily don't think that, again, the focus is usually there on, women abusing men, though it does happen.
Yeah, like I said, statistically, women hit men quicker than a man.
I think, most definitely. But at the same time, it's just, again, it's a woman, as they say, not understanding that there's a lot of women that have some good lefts and rights, better than men.
Yeah, but raised up by all their brothers. There's a lot of men who, as soon as they get a little girl, the first thing is, I'm going to teach you how to throw a right hook. So if some boy ever try to push up on you, you can defend yourself. There's a lot of grown women walking around who can put together a combination.
Oh, yeah, trust me. Yeah. I've had a girl that I dated that was verbally abusive in a way to where I had to look at her sometimes. And I've caught myself getting so angry until I started dealing with myself.
Okay.
And realizing like, And then again, if this is what she is and who she is, why am I still here?
Okay.
Right? So once I got to do that, it was when we eventually let each other, move on with each other's lives, I was able to learn that pattern. I can't meet her energy with her energy. And we happen to talk, frequently as friends, but she still has that same level.
Yeah.
What I realized, that's just her. She has things that has happened in her life. So she has to identify that and work with that. Yeah. Where with myself, I knew I had things that when she did those things, it triggered just the sense of like, who are you talking to? But then also looking at the stressors that I had.
Yeah.
And that just magnified it by 10. But I think that women are a lot more verbally abusive.
Yeah.
Than a man. A man, this is more or less physical, though men are verbally abusive too. But women like to really cut.
Say them phrases that'll just be like,
cut through the spine.
That's why your daddy never loved you. You know, just
worse than that.
You know what I'm saying? Like just
that's PG.
Yeah, but, yeah. Just them.
I honestly believe in a fold of it, and what she could be your daughter. What we're going to be doing in October is definitely getting together and creating a forum to discuss these things, because this is a crazy kind of world that we live in. And here in Sacramento, by itself, we've had 6 domestic violence incidents, and they all ended up in murder.
Yeah,
and I think like 5 are African American,
and most of them involve children also.
And then in children. So with that being said, it's really hard, because if that person does not get that help they need, what they can do to other people is catastrophic.
Okay, so going with something that you said about triggers, and so I don't think that we give enough acknowledgement or attention to those.
Okay.
Because I think that as a society, we look at what you're doing in front of me right now.
Yeah.
You know, if a man grew up, you know, maybe he grew up in realistically, we have a lot of children who get abused in this country.
Most definitely.
If he grew up in a household where his mom used to berate him, slap him across the head, call him stupid, call him, you know, emotionally and physically while he was smaller, abuse him. There may have been a part of his head that he would not lash out and hit his mother.
Yes.
She worked that into his head. But now he's 22, 24, 25, and he gets a woman who starts saying those exact same phrases in the same tone as his mother, only she doesn't have that emotional force field that his mama had.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he starts reverting back to 6, 7, 8, 9, and all those times where he felt like balling up his fist and swinging on his mama, and he didn't. Now he's balling up his fist and he's swinging on you.
His girlfriend.
Yeah. So
swinging on his wife.
So when it comes to you know, evolving past the behavior, or if it's just a revolving behavior, saying something to just throwing a ballpark. What percentage of people do you think are even aware that they have them? You know what I'm saying?
Not that many.
You know what I'm saying? I'm a firm believer that most people have a inability to self-assess. I believe that most people don't know who they are.
It is hard to self-assess, because when you self-assess and you figure out, oh, there's some things I have to change, when you don't change it, it becomes a difficult notion to know that you know there's something wrong with you and you're not doing anything about it.
You're taking another L.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
you have the problem, but you're not even fixing the problem. So that's 2 problems.
And I think that creates more of the aggression. I think some people do figure out, like, yo, I'm over here really kicking her ass. Or I'm really talking to him as if he's some dog.
Yeah.
And I'm barking orders at him and I'm flipping, and it's about nothing.
He left the cup in the sink.
You know what I'm talking about?
And all hell's breaking loose. Like,
I'm getting my ass kicked because I didn't pick up the phone when you called me. And that, I mean, like, we have to really think about it. How many of us, if we truly and honestly did the self-assessment, or as I say, the mirror look, you know, looking at yourself in the mirror and asking yourself, who am I?
Yeah.
What kind of man am I? What kind of woman am I going to be? I think that a lot of these issues could be addressed. And if you're really being truthful, and I think that when the abuser is in such this awkward position of realizing he's doing this stuff in fear, but also he's utilizing his wittiness, his abuse for power to keep a stranglehold on that person that they're abusing, it's really a catch-22, because really it's a person that fears so many things, different things that to have to deal with and face. But then again, it's like they're utilizing their power by showing how I control you and you have to wait on me, or you're not going to leave me, or you know I can physically harm you. That's a crazy situation to be involved in.
Okay, so we look at infidelity, and we look at domestic violence as patterns of behavior. What about crime? Because you'll hear people who say, once a thief, always a thief. That once somebody has, maybe they don't cheat on their woman, or they don't put hands on their girl or hands on their husband, but they have prison, they always have a revolving door. And granted, there's some systemic stuff that keeps people coming back.
Yeah.
But what about the notion of crime? Is that something that we evolve past, or is that just a revolving behavior?
It's another difficult thing. I mean, these things are very, and it's crazy because I feel like the scenarios, I've been involved in so many of them.
Yeah.
And I've come through. I've come through smelling like roses. But crime, man, if that's all you know and that's all you understand, it's real hard until you have an alternative or until you find a different way to get out of what you're used to doing. If I'm used to committing robberies to get what I need to pay rent, to eat the basic needs, then I'm going to go ahead and do what? Robberies. If that's what I know how to do.
Yeah.
And I went to jail a few times, but that's what I know how to do. I don't know how to do anything else.
So basically, for all these things, if there's not that self-assessment of A, this is what I'm doing or why I'm doing it, and B, there's got to be some kind of something put in practice to start curbing the behavior. Is there just a percentage of people that this is just who they are?
5 years you go to prison for, let's say, carjacking.
Okay.
5 years. Let's say that. Probably more.
I know, just for the sake of it.
Just for the sake of argument, we say 5 years. You come back 3 months later, you do the same thing.
Yeah.
You violate your parole, whatever. You do the same thing. That's telling you that those behavior mechanisms, again, if that's all you know, what are you going to likely go to what's more comfortable? Even though you know that the fact I can receive more jail time, I would rather risk that because we stay comfortable in what we know and usually rely on what we know to get ahead. So being in that process, understanding that, I may go to jail, but that's all I know. And my probability is like, well, if I don't do this, then what am I going to do? Yeah. That's what creates the mechanisms that we have of people consistently continuing to follow this erratic behavior of doing the same shit even though it doesn't work.
Okay, I can understand all that. So if you're looking at putting all that stuff together to where infidelity can be something that, if you're somebody who's got a bunch of options and opportunity and you got chicks throwing themselves at you.
I'm more than just an option. Hey. I just had to get my Drake on one time.
Not a problem. If you got all these type of opportunities, that may be something that's a revolving door that may come back up and may go back to the old Chris Rock joke, a man's only as faithful as his options. If you got all kind of, access like that, it may be a little difficult, but you can clean that up. And if we're looking at something where it comes along the lines of like domestic violence, it can be said that just because you and your college girlfriend got physical doesn't mean that at 52 you're still putting your hands on your wife or husband. Mm-hmm. And if we're even saying that crime, if it's something that's, okay, well, if this is all that you know and this is all that you're familiar with and you haven't seen anything else, that even if if you're in a better situation, maybe you were stealing because you were starving and now you got a job. So your natural inclination is not to steal. Mm-hmm. Like there's nothing pressing you to start stealing. But if you lose your job, that may be your default if you don't learn other things. Uh-huh. Like you can fall back on that. So if we're following, like looking at the process of evolving past the behavior, or if it's just a revolving door, what about behavior like supporting each other? Like it's easy when you want to look at somebody who's, if you're an abuser.
Supporting each other with the behavior that is being displayed?
No, the behavior of supporting one another. Okay. So if it's something like, because that's one issue that comes up repeatedly about lack of support for one another. Is that a behavior that you would feel culturally we can evolve ourselves out of? Or is that just a revolving rat race door, like hamster wheel of like what's it going to take to shake off his wheel? Because that's where we find a lot of societal and cultural problems is because that's a behavior that we have embraced, not supporting each other in business, a lot of community stuff, like that's becoming a problem.
I mean, I think that we do support each other, but I think we support each other in a negative way. And just going back real quick, just want to, because it was on the top of my mind, the whole infidelity thing and just that whole space with Kevin Hart and the extortion thing, just because it's in my head. This whole idea of him now flipping it as extortion, he was cheating. And he got caught cheating. He's now admitting in a way of cheating, but in the same sense playing the victim, when the reality is, bro, there would be no extortion if you didn't extort yourself. Yeah. So let's just be clear on, who is the real victim in this matter. If there's anyone that is a victim, as karma is a bitch, and it's always a bitch that comes back to haunt you. Now, going back to support, I think personally black folks like to support the negative more than they like to support the positive. You hear more about the deadbeat baby daddy compared to hearing about the actual dad that's doing something, right? Yeah. We have such a difficult time with what R. Kelly might be doing, and he's disgusting, but yet you won't see DJs all across the board stop playing his music, right?
That's all. He ain't my daughter.
So I think that in the same sense, and then even when we look at some of the recent events just here, particularly in Sacramento, with older artists beefing with younger artists, and you would think older artists would have a more diplomatic way of dealing with the situation at hand, but in the same sense, my opinion, of course, you see them utilizing that wave to get back attention, and folks from the background supporting that, even though it's a guy who's almost 50 years old continuing to promote gangbanging life. To me, it's like we support the negative, but we don't embrace the positive as much, but then turn around and complain that all we have is negative images, but don't denounce the imagery that is being presented by folks that say, well, we're trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, or folks that could be a part of solving the problem. I mean, why is Love and Hip Hop, whatever, Atlanta, Hollywood, why is that show a continuous hit? If it's so ratchet and we know it's influencing a lot of our males and young females, why is that even supported? So these kind of things that when we talk about support, it's a level of what are actually black folks supporting compared to what they're not supporting, in my opinion.
Okay, so what that would sound like is so conditioning, whatever it is that you've been used to being shown, heard, was perpetually put in front of you, for what kind of behavior that you're exhibiting. If you're around a bunch of, ratchet ass behavior, it's a pretty good, good chance you're going to exhibit ratchet behavior. If you're around a bunch of criminals all day, it's a pretty good chance you're going to commit a crime. Yeah. If you're around dudes or women that don't respect men or women, or do not know how to express themselves without putting their hands on somebody, you're probably more likely than not going to exhibit that behavior, as well as if you find somebody who is consistently cheating. Yeah. If you're around people of a culture of people who think, oh man, that ain't nothing. Man, you got to sow is royal oats. Women are like, oh girl, you got to go ahead and just get it in. Like if the culture of where you're at supports that behavior, you're more likely than not stick with it. So if we're looking at, in order to evolve out of some of the poor choices that we're making, and to evolve out of some of the situations that we're finding ourselves in, and not get caught on that hamster wheel of that revolving behavior, if what we're exposed to is so huge, why does it seem that we don't gravitate or don't push for the stuff. Because I think everybody knows. Yeah, I think everybody knows that if you keep, because even if you know, if you keep listening to something, keep watching something, you know it's going to affect you to a degree. Mm-hmm. You know that. You know, if you watch horror movies in the middle of the night, you probably have bad dreams. Mm-hmm. You know, if you know that, what do you think it'd take to get people to say, like, I know what I'm constantly feeding myself is killing me, mm-hmm. but I can't seem to stop eating.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's that dessert that you like that you know you're not supposed to eat after 5, or you shouldn't eat 3 to 4 days out of the week?
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, I mean, if I was knocking out a cheesecake at night, that would be, I'm not trying to be a candidate for diabetes.
Okay, well, but it tastes good, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that with every negative thing that we talk about, there's some kind of good, there's some kind of interest we have in it. Yeah. That's what it's so difficult for people to move away, because it's interesting watching ratchet behavior, because you're like, wow, this is kind of interesting in a sense, because you're trying to figure out, well, why are these people flipping out the way they flipping out? Like, but at the same time, damn, that purse she got, or damn, that dude's shoes is dope. So you're kind of inviting the negativity without really realizing that you're inviting the negativity,
because vicariously through the ratchetness.
Oh man, you're tuned in, and sometimes that negative look is a negative look or lens from things that you might have been through, and you're kind of reliving your life through those patterns. And with music, sometimes it's just catchy. That's why these hooks get you. Like, right now, who's the biggest hip hop artist right now? You have a stripper. Yeah, the biggest hip hop artist right now is a former stripper.
Cardi B.
Right?
Big and of course, Bodak Yellow.
And of course, shouts out to Nicki Minaj before her, who wasn't particularly a stripper that got famous. Maybe she did strip, who knows? But I'm just saying that
she's definitely pushing the culture.
She pushed this a culture that embraced now what Cardi B is. She was the first to say, hey, I'm going to do these things this way. And she pushed it to another level that was allowed Cardi B to come in there and do what she does, even though you're saying to yourself, yo, like, I should not be bumping my head to this. Yeah. But we are at times attracted to the negative. That's why pushing it away becomes so hard. The street life, though I knew the end result, jail or death. Yeah. Jail or death. I mean, at the end of the day, there was the visions of having that Scarface, Nino Brown life. But reality, when you remember Nino Brown and Scarface, how did they end?
And neither one of them make it to the end of the movie.
Okay, right? Yeah. so even though I know reality, jail, death, I still push, because I looked at, well, maybe I could be that one that escapes that and gets there and have a different ending of my movie and make it to the end of the movie, right?
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of that, because I think that's something that's very important. If we talk about like that draw to ratchet television, just as an example, about how as much as we all know that there's nothing good has come to my spirit watching this all day.
And just real quick, the shit is funny sometimes as well.
But that's where I'm going. Yeah. So if we can sit there and say that I know this is negative, I know this is portraying a negative stereotype, this is perpetuating a whole bunch of garbage that we know is not true in day-to-day life, but other people will watch and will run with this like it's gospel. I know it's got all that negative stuff, but because I get entertained, they're funny, they're over the top, I get a little something from this, I'll continue to watch. Does that same logic, or is that something to really look at, carry over to the other subjects? Because when we look at if somebody's in a domestic situation that is as much as horrific as it can be on one end, looking at there's still something you get from being with this person.
Yeah.
Well, no, but I'm saying, so if we're look at, like I said, the old narrative we talk domestic violence is villain and victim. But really looking at those layers of, I hate getting hit, but I'm still getting something from this.
Well, the domestic violence lens is deeper than, what you and I could ever imagine, because we're not the abuser or we're not getting abused. But in the same sense of understanding relationships, being with people that might have talked to you crazy, that might have pushed your buttons, but you stayed in it for whatever particular reason. Yeah. Right? I mean, I remember I was talking to one of my young bulls, and I was explaining to him about how I used to be very superficial when it came to, young women. Like, I was just like, I used to stay with certain chicks that I knew I had no business with because they had a fat ass, right? Yeah. It was just like, she's bugging out, but that ass, I'm just like, I was focused on that. So in the same sense, one of the people that I was talking to about their relationship that is definitely reaping in domestic violence on all levels, mentally and physically, I said, why do you stay with this person? This person said to me that this man is a good man. He just needs some help. Yeah. So whatever breakdown moment that person, whether it's a he or she, has with that individual, I think that right there, that moment that we don't know that they share in their whatever sick plotted mind, because in our mind frame, we're like, motherfucker hit you in your face, I'm out of here. We don't understand whatever that other person who's receiving it, or that person who's giving the abuse, we don't know their capacities of the relationships of what they identify to be their space of comfort, right? Yeah. And what that person may have over that person or has done for that person, to where that person feels that I have to be with this person to see this shit all the way through. It's sick, but in the same sense, I think that's what kind of plots and plays around with this. It's like they believe in their hearts of hearts that they can get through this, and if they stay diligent and they stay focused with this person in this moment, that all things will end up being right.
Yeah, I get the loyalty factor. I get the sympathy factor. In my years, I've talked with and worked with a bunch of people who had to deal with different forms of violence in the home and against children and stuff, and you'll start to hear that theme. Whether it be dad, whether it be boyfriend, whether it be mom, whether it be sister, whatever, the loyalty to the individual, because you don't want to leave them. Mm-hmm. And it is viewed in some cases as a sickness.
And then on top of that, when you say loyalty, think about the investment.
Yeah. In some cases,
I invested 4 or 5 years with this person. I'm not finna turn myself back. Yeah. I'm finna try to work shit out.
Yeah, I'm there's some of this on the petty side. I'm not gonna let you get right just to be right for the next person.
Oh, and bro,
no, it's real.
A lot of it's on the petty side. Of it's on the petty side.
What I'm saying, if we're starting to, because I think it's important to have real conversations about, because we're a headline reading society. Yeah. We're a headline of he cheated, mm-hmm. he's a dog. She cheated, she's a hoe. Mm-hmm. Man, why didn't you leave her? She was out sleeping with somebody at such and such, such and such. Yeah, but, she takes care of the home and the kids is fed and this and that. Infidelity is not a deal breaker in most, relationships in America. Domestic violence is not a major deal breaker in most relationships in America. Number one reason why people get divorced in America is money. Yeah. Number two, I believe, is a belief or ideological difference. Either you don't see eye to eye, whether it be relationship, belief systems, the way you parent, or spank kids, don't spank them, how you approach problems, conflict, like that. That's number two. Third has to do with sex. It's usually if it's not infidelity, sexual incompatibility. Yeah. He want it all the time. She don't want it all the time.
I'm surprised sexual compatibility is not up there with like at least 2.
No, well, it's involved in sex. So, whether it be your sex drives, whether it be cheating, all that stuff is in the same. But this is America. This is a capitalist society. Money's first. And and usually the second one is how you get money or go about it, or what you do once you have it. sex is, and then when you start going long term, people get older, sex is not as the dominant thing.
I mean, it's not,
but
not at all.
But what I was, looking to say something too, and kind of shine a light on is moving away from just the headline reading, moving away from just he hit her, she's out, or why she's stupid if she stays. Mm-hmm. You stupid to stay with that crazy girl. Mm-hmm. All those things that we just like to give the headline to, and really start peeling back the layers. And there's a lot of layers to these particular subjects.
Yeah.
If we're talking about evolving past the behavior, there's an old phrase that says the brain can't see past what it doesn't understand. So if you don't actually really look at why you're doing something, mm-hmm. you're not going to stop doing something.
You're right.
You can send somebody to jail to stop them from stealing, mm-hmm. but all you did is stop their access from stealing. It's why people have a drug habit or a particular habit, and you lock them up and they stop. Mm-hmm. They didn't stop because they actually stopped what they were doing. They just stopped because they couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And as soon as you give them an opportunity to do it again, they're right back on it.
Yeah.
So I think that, when we're saying something to our behaviors and about evolving past who we are to who we want to be, and not just getting caught on that revolving door of, once this, always this, I think it's important that we start looking at, really what something is. Because I think, like I said, I think we're headline readers. I think we're just surface.
I think that any kind of situation we put ourselves in, we have a lot of control on how the next step ends up being. We don't have control on the first step. Like, I get abused, I get cheated on. You don't know unless you see a character flaw or a trait that you're not really too familiar with, and you just kind of like you kind of breeze past it. But then it becomes a line of, okay, he cheated, I take him back. He hit me, I take him back. That now becomes, you are playing a part of that vicious cycle. Yeah. And I think a lot of infidelity, abuse stops when those who are victims say, "Oh, you don't get a second swipe at this." Like, what I mean? Like, we're not doing this again.
Playing your little reindeer games.
I don't give a damn. Yeah, we've been together 3 years. Ooh, thank you. The wee was great. Or the ooh-ah was ooh. You're not going to have another term at this. I think that creates more of an aggressive behavior. Not saying that folk won't try to get back in good fairness with that person, but I think that when we continue, and that's what we talk about support, we continue to support certain behaviors like this.
Okay.
When individuals get involved, if they don't say, "Oh, you know what, the first time is the only time," and get out, it continues a track that may lead to the wrong road.
Okay, so where does forgiveness factor into that?
I mean, you can forgive a person and not be with a person.
But not true. But I'm saying, because for a lot of people, like I said, hitting somebody in this country society is not a deal breaker for most people.
Yeah.
Cheating is not deal, because when you start looking at, he slept with somebody else, she slept with somebody else. Well, men are more inclined to leave if a woman cheats than women are.
Because our emotions are all over the place.
Yeah, but but a lot of that stuff works into
that's ego right there.
But a lot of it is we can't afford to break up. Some of it is we've got kids, we got this mortgage, we got this and that. I'm not about to throw away 5, 10, 15 years because he decided to sleep with somebody else. Or all these other things are going well, and the violent side is 3 times a year.
But
that sounds like a lot to somebody who's not in that world. But if you imagine, if you only had an incident every 4 months,
I hear you.
You could look at, somebody could say, you know what, we have this incident every 4 months, and we go through it for maybe 4 or 5 days when it happens. So 12, 15 days out of 365, we got problems. You know what I'm saying?
And that's why people support the negative behavior.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. Is there a difference between the person who's like, I respect the fact that, the guy who's like, baby, I'm sorry I hit you. Because, I'm sorry. It's never going to happen again. I don't know what's going on. I'm under a lot of pressure from work. I got a lot of stuff going.
That doesn't mean you slap your wife.
No. I'm not justifying.
No, I'm not saying you are, but I'm just saying.
So when that delivery goes to her.
And my particular is like, I get the pressures of life, but that don't mean you go slap your wife.
But I'm saying, but if she's like, okay, this is the first time it's happened. We've been together 2 years. He gave me the scenario and the situation for how it happened. Where would you think that the forgiveness component would be is to get an opportunity for a second time to potentially happen? Because like I said, if it's the first time and there's already some time served, like if you're 2 weeks in and the dude pops off, she's out with a restraining order and a cop at the front door. But if you're 2 years in, but if you're more likely than not, if you're 2 years in and you're living together and you got cars in each other's names and she may be pregnant or may already have a baby in the house, him slapping her one time or her slapping him, because we ain't just saying that women get this pass. There may be some, I'm really, really sorry. I'm under all this such and such, so and so. To the same to infidelity. I was just feeling a certain kind of way. You weren't hearing me. I was trying to say that I needed you and you were always busy. Is there a forgiveness factor?
Infidelity, there's a possible way to clear that up. Sometimes us men and sometimes us women realize that, the grass ain't greener. Abuse, you are asking yourself to get hit again some other way down the line. I don't care if it's 3 years. I don't care if it's next week. I just don't think that, those two things, though they sound similar to the moment of maybe we can't get through this. I just look at it like domestic violence is something that it weighs harder on the brain when someone, because their mechanism of frustration gets to that boiling point to where they can slug you. That's unsafe.
Okay, well, so I get that. So if the violence is not the fist, it's I'm under so much pressure, because there's a whole the emotional, the verbal, where you just berate and you got all 31 flavors of just insulting somebody to where they feel like they were kicked in the stomach.
I mean, it can happen. And
is there a forgiveness off of that for the same reason? I'm under all kind of stress. I'm all kind of pressure.
Depending on the levels again of communication that a person is under, but I think that we have to get to a certain level to where I know a person that the only thing they're doing wrong in this abusive relationship is staying.
Okay.
They're not doing anything else but doing that wrong by condoning the behavior of that person by trying to stay and help this person with their sickness. Every single thing I can run in a book, this person has done to this other person, and this person has stayed.
Yeah.
And it's almost kind of like, now you're stupid.
What would it take? Right? If you can put up with this grocery list of stuff, what actually is your deal breaker?
Yeah, so it's beyond that person just abusing them. It's just DUI. It's gone to jail. It's lost a job. It's
this person has a pattern of bad
like,
behavior.
Come on, man. Now, so it becomes like, this is what you like. You like dysfunction.
So that's my point. So now if you say this person, who this person is.
Yeah.
Like I mean, if they're always losing a job, always getting DUIs, constant problems, this, that, and the third, get into it with everybody they're around. Mm-hmm. Everybody got something negative to say about them. The jury is done deliberating. You know who you've got. And if you're still drawn to that dysfunction, that becomes a dysfunction within yourself. You have to start looking at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, like, what am I all about? Is this who I am? Because if I'm drawn to that, I can't sit there and talk about that person has the problem. I got to look at myself and ask, I got the problem. Because I just look at it to the scale of we are the decision makers of how a person is going to treat us. Like I said, we can get fooled that first time. Yeah. But when it becomes a pattern, that is something that now we have to look at. I just don't find myself understanding folks who don't see that behaviors that a person may display as something that you or I can't fix. That person got to go by themselves. Any lady listening right now, here's some great advice. If you want a man to become a man, allow that man to become a man by himself. Don't help him.
That was some of the best work that happened to me with one of my ex-girlfriends, that I was going through the things I was going through, and now all of a sudden I was like, well, I need you to be there for me. And she was kind of pretty much like, well, I've been here for you for like 5 years and you shitted on me.
Yeah.
I'm done. I can't do this no more. And that was great for me because it made me check myself. Like, I needed to go all the way down and retool myself and get myself back up mentally and understand the worth of myself and how I needed to be humble to value other people who really had invested good things about me that I did not see at that particular time, and really start focusing on not the crowd, not the response of the crowd, but the response of the moment in myself and the people who really cared for me, my family, and those who were really on my side, not just the crowd of other people that I didn't even see their face. I just heard them cheering. So it's always, for me as a man, I have to take accountability for myself and get myself right, and don't need anybody to be involved. Of course, you need the accountability partner. You also need the person that you can have as your vent partner. You need those two things, accountability and vent partner, because you're going to have those moments. Yeah. But a lot of the particular times, I think when women stay around us trying to heal us, when we are forcing them not to heal themselves, or we're in our space to where it's like, man, fuck everybody, we got to let ourselves be the ones to deal with ourselves before we try to deal with everybody else.
Because I think these are all things that are important to be looked at, that we as a people start really understanding that these are two people tangos. Mm-hmm. And that if we decide that we want to dance with a particular partner and they can't get the steps right, it's okay to walk away and get a new partner. That you're not disloyal, you're not wrong because somebody told you they know how to tango and all they know how to do is two-step. Well, when you go ahead and you go on back there and take some classes, you go on and get you some instruction, and when you learn to get your tango gang up, maybe you can come back and holler if I ain't got a new partner by then.
Yeah.
But when it comes to evolving out of these steps, it's about being able to be real with ourselves and recognize we ain't got a tango. All we got is a two-step. And quit trying to say that it's anything other than that. So if it's infidelity, if it's crime, if it's abuse, if it's any of those things, that as much as the world is going, there'll be repercussions to the behaviors that we have out here in these streets. But sometimes you got to just look in the mirror and be real with yourself and say something.
And definitely say something.
I'm Jermaine Morris. We're at Barry Accius. Where can folks find you online?
Barry Accius on Facebook, Barry Accius on Twitter and Instagram at Team Voy, and of course blackblueprints.com with a Z.
I'm Jermaine Morris on Facebook. Every other social media platform is at JMorrisCEO. You can also follow the Say Something podcast on Twitter. That's at We Say Something. Also, We Say Something podcast at gmail.com. If you got questions, comments, things you want to check out, you want to have addressed, brought on, hey, you may even want to be a guest on the show.
Yes, sir.
And you also always hear us on SoundCloud, currently on iTunes as well, depending on how you getting this. And so it's been Jermaine here with Barry Accius and the Say Something podcast.
Yes, sir.
And until next show, we will holla at you later.
Indeed.